Welcome, everybody, once again to our monthly Zoom meeting of the Healing Cooperative. We are now in March 2022, and Joia Gibble is our speaker of the month. And Joia is going to be presenting EFT and the Akashic Records. Joia, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you for the beautiful meditation that you led us through. So again, my name is Joia, Joia. It's a Portuguese name. I'm American. There's a story of how my mom named me that. It can be translated to joy or to gem, depending on which language you're translating it to. And also my middle name is Kristen. So it's interesting how I feel like I have come to grow into my name, which literally means joy of Christ. And this is somebody who was taken to church as a young child, but rebelled in that environment. I never felt like I fit into an environment where my questions seemed to kind of lead to a dead end. And I had really big questions for that people couldn't answer or didn't want to answer, and sometimes I didn't know if they. So I've just kind of fell away from Christ per se, but we found each other again, which is interesting that it's been in my name the whole time. And I am an EFT tapping practitioner. A lot of you may know what that is. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and there's a lot of different styles of EFT. I'm trained in a particular style that is called EFT with Source Technique. I taught out of an organization called the Miracle Center of California. And what is different about that particular technique, what makes it EFT with Source Technique is, number one, we are getting to the source of what the issue or the symptom may be that a person is experiencing, but also we call on power or help from source, or what some people might call God or the divine or nature. A lot of people, terminology doesn't matter, right? It's what the thing that is bigger than you that you can put your trust in, something that you feel like at the end of the day you can turn your trust over to somebody or something else, or ask help from something else when you feel like you have done everything that you can do. It reminds me of that saying, Lord, grant me the strength to change the things that I can. The courage to change the things that I can. How does it go? And the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. That's the important part, the wisdom to know the difference. So I'll talk a little bit about EFT, how I have experienced it and how I have used it with other people. And I don't know a lot about, let's say, how or why it actually works. If you want to know more about the science of how or why it actually works, you can go to a website called energypsych.org. Psych is PSYCH, energypsych.org. It's the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, ACEP. They have compiled a lot of research over the years about not just EFT, but also about other healing modalities that they're calling energy psychology. And one of the energy psychology modalities, for example, besides EFT, is called TFT, or thought field therapy. And thought field therapy, TFT, is actually the precursor to EFT. And so this is a book it's probably showing up backwards. Tapping the healer within.
Is that the same
Um,
as emotional freedom technique?
So EFT is emotional freedom technique. That's what I do. That's what a modality that I use. But the precursor to EFT is called TFT. It's called thought field therapy. So this doctor, Roger J. Callahan, the story is that he was with a client who had a severe phobia of water, to the extent to where she could not bathe her children. And he was studying or had read about how Chinese medicine makes a connection between fears or feelings and physical reactions, and also your organs in your body, and basically using the meridian system in the body. So long story short, he realized that if he had her tap on a certain point of her body, it would activate a certain meridian, and it would get rid of this feeling that she had in the gut of her stomach, that just told her she could not get in the water. And then eventually he got her to where she could sit by the edge of the pool and then dangle her feet in. And then eventually she was able to overcome this problem, at least to the extent to where she could perform her daily activities without a constant stress about this fear. Even though maybe she didn't know where it came from, it was there was a physical thing that was happening in her body. And so he made that connection. And that was, I think, just back in the 80s. It hasn't been that long that this has developed into a system. And so again, coming back to EFT, again, some of you may know what it is. Some of you may have already used it on yourselves, or maybe you've done it with some clients. There's different points on your body. There's all the ones around the face and on the top of the head. There's the side of the eye. There's under the nose. There's on the chin. There's what's called the collarbone point, but it's actually here on the chest, a couple of inches below your collarbone. And then there's the thymus, or also called the center of the chest, or it's more sensitive there for most people. To me, this just feels like the heart center, right? So I just tap all around this area. There's an area on the front of your ribs that is really good for releasing anger. And then there's points underneath your arms. For ladies, that's right where the bra strap goes. And then there's also points on the inside of your knee. And there's also points on your hands. So in the first part of tapping, a lot of people will see, you'll start by tapping on the side of the hand like this. You can do one side, you can do the other, you can do both by tapping them together like this. So, and the wrist too, for some reason, this movement and then the wrist, tapping these together, this whole thing that we're doing, like if we're tapping on these meridians while we are processing feelings and thoughts, it gets the neurons firing in a lot of different ways that they normally don't fire, because as people over the years, we have developed habitual thoughts and beliefs, and it's like we've created ridges in our brain, so our thoughts naturally tend to go where they have gone before. But like you did in your example, Susan, with the O cards, it gets your brain thinking in a slightly different way, and it's the same thing with tapping, except at an accelerated pace. So the combination of tapping on the meridian points gets your neurons firing in a way that they wouldn't normally fire, but it's also calming down your fight, flight, freeze response. So you can go through a tapping sequence with somebody who is remembering for example, something very traumatic or very stressful for them, but and they will feel as they go through that. Usually, I should say, ideally, they're feeling, and usually as they go through that, but it calms down that system that would normally have you panic or retreat or defend yourself. Again, the fight, flight, freeze. So let me just make sure I've covered kind of the basics. I don't, if somebody's brand new to tapping, they're probably thinking, what the heck are you talking about? If you've done tapping before, then I hope this is kind of taking things a little bit deeper for you maybe, or it can help you to make tapping more effective in your life. And I actually have a document that I put together, which is 10 ways to make EFT tapping more effective for you. So I'm just going to kind of scan down the list here and mention some things. So one thing is that if you are tapping, let's say you're tapping for yourself, maybe you're following a video on YouTube that you found, or maybe you just want to set a timer for 15 minutes and start tapping. That's fine. One thing that people often forget to do is to breathe. So you have to remember to take deep breaths as you are going through this, because as you bring up stressful thoughts and emotions, your body might want to kind of start to freeze up. Your breathing gets more shallow. So by using your breathing, you can calm down your body. Stay hydrated. You want to drink some water before, during, after. For one thing, you're breathing a lot, that dehydrates your body. You're moving energy, that can dehydrate your body. And also, another thing I've discovered about the drinking water is that it's something tactile that can like bring somebody back to the present moment. So if you kind of get into a space where you've been tapping for a while and somebody, you can almost feel like they're in a dream state for a little bit, they get a little foggy in the head. Something like a glass of water can just kind of like, okay, like I can be back like in my body now, like this is okay, even like where I am in the present moment. You can pick up a conversation, check in with each other, that sort of thing. And that's another big thing, is checking in with yourself as you're tapping, because feelings do shift while you're tapping. So you might start tapping on one thing, and then you start to notice there's kind of something else in the back of your head that wants to come forward. All of a sudden, you're not quite so mad that you were cut off in traffic on the way home from work, but now you're realizing that that there's something else that you're mad about that hurts you a little bit more personally, or feels a little bit more deep. But that initial feeling that was at the top can take you there. So that's another point about tapping as well. So if, for example, if I sit down with the client in a session and I know that we're working on, could be anything, a client wants to lose a few pounds. Okay, well, I know that that's what our goal is in the long run. But if I sit down with that client for that day and I can tell that there's something that she's distracted by because she had a fight with her husband, or she's got an issue with her son, whatever it may be, we want to talk about that, and maybe even do some tapping on that first, so that they're not going to be distracted by that issue, which may be more pressing. So that
Is there
you
a
can
specific script that you would use for your particular type of EFT?
a particular script. So the general script is to find out the strongest negative feeling that you're feeling in that moment, or about a particular situation. But in that moment, you always want to bring it present. Let's say somebody, for example, again, wants to lose a few pounds, and they're saying, I don't like going on a diet because I feel like I'm restricting myself. I would say, okay, how does that make you feel? That makes me feel frustrated. Okay, so I want to get a number on the frustration, a scale of 1 to 10. So that scale lets us measure the intensity of one feeling against another, so you kind of know what to tap on, also so you can track it as you shift. So ideally, as you tap, that frustration level will come down. But also, one thing you want to set up beforehand is, and sometimes I forget this part when I'm tapping for myself, but when I'm with a client, it's more of a method to it. But you also want to set up, okay, I feel frustrated now at a level of 8, but what I want to feel is free. Okay, or whatever it is. So in my tapping, I'm going to start off on the side of the hand with the setup statement. I feel so frustrated. I say that I want to lose weight, and then I just can't seem to make the choices and take the actions that lead to that. I'm so frustrated. And then you go around a few rounds, tapping on different points, saying the way that it really is, with the negative of how you feel, and then you start to sprinkle in some of the positive. Okay, so I feel frustrated, but I would really like to feel free around this. And then by the end of it, you are saying only positive statements. I feel really free. I make really great choices. I don't have to do this alone. I have other people who can support me. I can call on God or spirit or nature or whatever it is. So all this happens over the course of, it could be, 15, 20 minutes, maybe sometimes longer, depending on how many stops and tangents, you want to take. But I've had some really beautiful breakthroughs and insights, and even visuals, just sitting down and tapping through something, even if I don't know exactly where I want to end up. If you just start where you are and then tap and breathe, and don't give up when the feelings get really tough. That's when to keep pushing through. You want to end up in a place where you are more calm. It's normal for people to get tired. Yawning is very common during tapping, getting tired. I tend to have a lot of gas. I tend to burp a lot when I'm moving a lot of energy. Or if I feel somebody else if I'm helping move energy for them, I will burp a lot. Laughing is common. It's just getting neurons firing to where it's like, okay, people are like, wow, if I can actually laugh about this situation, like, then something must be happening here. So the way that I wanted to talk about EFT so much, especially on the front end of this talk, because I have seen and I have experienced for myself that if a person is experiencing the fight, flight, freeze, if they're in a very stressful situation with their body and with their mind, then they are going to have trouble opening up to spirit and source and all these other energetic kind of healing. So it can be hard to hear or feel your own intuition. It can literally be hard for somebody to sit down and be still with themselves if they are in a lot of pain. So EFT is really great for pain, physical, mental, emotional, right? And I got onto energypsych.org here because I wanted to check the website, make sure I was giving you guys the right website. And there's actually a quote by Deepak here, and it says, I am an advocate for meditation. However, trauma, anxiety, and other emotional problems can interfere with the health benefits of meditation. It can even make it hard to meditate at all. Fortunately, energy psychology methods can help. So I'm introducing an EFT and other energy psychology as something to look at first, or to address first, especially with a person who is under extreme stress, still experiencing a lot of grief or trauma. Is going to be hard for them to open up to spirit in a way that they can trust what they are hearing, what they are experiencing, and to make their own good decisions. So that's a message that I want to get across today. So I think that's all that I want to say for today, except
You wanted to mention something
Yeah.
about the Akashic Records.
The Akashic Records is every thought that a person has experienced throughout all of their lifetimes, past, present, and future. So I can go into somebody's records with their explicit permission and with their explicit permission only. I also teach people how to access their own records because this is about putting the power into the hands of people. So once I have explicit permission to go into somebody's records, I'm then in communication with special beings who can help you address things that you have not as of yet been able to address with whatever you've tried, whether it be talk therapy or EFT or Reiki or whatever it may be. It's those things that somebody are experiencing that could have roots from another lifetime or from ancestral lineage that could have been passed down through their ancestral lineage. That's where the Akashic Records come in. And I love that work. It's just that I see some people try to jump into that work, but before they're calm enough in their body and in their mind to really gain the full benefit from work like the Akashic Records. Does that make sense?
So when you talk about EFT and the Akashic Records, how do the two get combined?
So EFT is something that would come before somebody would go into the Akashic Records. So somebody could mix the two. You could open up somebody's records and then do EFT tapping. In that case, it's just that you want to make sure you want to protect all of the rules that are in place around working with the Akashic Records, which such as time limits, explicit permission, that sort of thing. But you can use them together. You just want to make sure that you are knowledgeable about what you're doing with the Akashic Records before you try to bring in anything else with it.
Okay, so the title of your presentation tonight was EFT and the Akashic Records. So do you normally work with a client with their Akashic Records and EFT at the same time?
Normally, we use EFT to calm down the system from acute stress, to release traumas from this lifetime, to gain clarity around what it is that they want in their life, how they want to proceed forward. The Akashic Records comes into play when it's something that is carried over from a previous lifetime or from an ancestor.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand. Okay, great. Is that the conclusion of your presentation,
That's the
Joia?
conclusion. Yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to stop the recording and then we're going to get into some questions. All right. Stop recording.